في أكبر الكتب.
Well, good morning and welcome to the Morning Report. My name is Willie Lawson. The Morning Report is a production of fightbackmedia.com, 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 and fightbackmediatv.com. I trust that you are well today. It's hard to believe. It really is difficult to believe that in 2024 that we are still dealing with a level of anti-Semitism that is almost to the level of a fad. And I kind of think that's what it is. Harvard College suspended the Palestine Solidarity Committee. Palestine Solidarity Committee. Now, if you go back, these Ivy League schools were incredibly anti-Semitic in the day. If you were Jewish, you couldn't get it. That's all there was to it. I mean, being Jewish was a problem. So I guess it goes back to their roots, which are the same roots as groups like the KKK or the Knights of the White Camellia and the Nazi Party. Huh. So the move comes as pro-terrorist demonstrations have overtaken parts of campuses at Columbia and Yale universities, Ivy League schools. The PSC, which has been on probation since March, was notified via email of the temporary suspension for failing to register a protest and violating use of space guidelines. So they had a protest and they were supposed to register to be able to use the space on campus, and they didn't do that, so they got suspended. Here's what the university said. The PSC was one of several student organizations, including some unrecognized student organizations, just some random students, to stage a rally in Harvard Yard on Friday, in solidarity with student activists in Columbia, more than 100 of whom were arrested on Thursday by the New York City Police Department. During the rally, attendees marched and chanted outside the offices of administration in the yard, including on the steps of Widener Library. The group also found itself at the center of controversy in the immediate aftermath of the Hamas October 7th attack on Israel, when the PSC published a statement co-signed by more than 30 other student groups that stated it held the Israeli regime responsible for all unfolding violence from the Hamas attack. So these folks, and this is why this is faddish and stupid, because these folks say, what's happened, since this attack is on Israel. Because they didn't just, I don't know, give up and hand the keys over and get on airplanes and get out of Israel. I don't know. The organization will not be recognized and will not have access to university benefits and the student services at this time, including but not limited to the use of campus space, the appropriate use of the Harvard name. The email reads, if the organization continues to operate and commits additional violations during the suspension, the organization risks permanent expulsion, and as provided in the resource guide. In a statement responding to the temporary suspension on social media, the PSC said the movement cannot be stopped. For the past 6 months, PSC has faced unprecedented repression, doxing, racist harassment, and targeted administrative crackdowns. But this is the organization at Harvard that is supporting the people who use ultralights to go into a concert, an outdoor concert in Israel, and kill the attendees, murder them, rape some of the women in front of their friends just for grins. These are the people that these kids are supporting. We call on the Harvard community to fight against repression and join the movement for Palestinian liberation. Their X account is called Harvard for Palestine. Mercy. Well, no, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. If Columbia University's president considers this a form of protesting, the terror camp isn't coming down. There's no way that Columbia University's quasi-terror camp will be torn down anytime soon. An army of pro-Hamas students now faculty have joined this egregious and heinous display of anti-Semitism. It has become the left's Charlottesville. And the only thing missing from these encampments is tiki torches. But they follow the same script. Kill all the Jews. Same thing. So why aren't the police moving in as they did at New York University last night? Because Columbia is private property. They can't do anything unless the president gives New York's finest the green light. That's never going to happen, given the president's view on terrorism, which he feels is another form of protest. When some of us have been saying that education is booty for years, this is what we're talking about. We're not talking about actually being smart. And this is how some people on the left twist this. We're not saying anything about actually knowing stuff and learning stuff, and it's the people. It's this woman who's in charge of a major university in the country who thinks terrorism is just a form of protest. That 9/11 was just a form of protest. It's just a form of protest. It's crazy. Ivy League, again, for a long and sordid history of has a long and sordid history of anti-Semitism, with the initial phase mostly to maintain the institutions along white Anglo-Saxon lines. Now, it's to ensure that the terrorists on campus feel safe, have a platform for which to spread their hatred of Jews. These kids are going to run the country in some respect someday soon. And that's even a more frightening concept, because here's the deal. We continue to elevate these places and these people to ridiculously high levels of importance. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. I said that the best thing about this is that hopefully these people in these places are finally being exposed as to what they are. And these people are being exposed to who they are. And because of that, hopefully the rest of us can look at things as they are and make the needed changes. And those changes are: don't send your kids there. Don't hold them in such high esteem. And these are the people that we're holding in high esteem. Oh, so Ivy League. Ooh, Ivy League. I want to make it to Ivy League school. Do you? Is your kid anti-Semite? Is your kid a racist? Is your kid a bigot? Is your kid calling for the death of a whole nation of people? Or are you? Is that what you want to support? Now, colleges have always leaned heavily toward the left. There was also a cadre of anti-Israel professors, or the weirdo sociology professor who felt pedophiles shouldn't be persecuted, but they were always in the minority. It's astounding how how much has flipped in less than a generation. Now, it's common for someone on the left to promote terrorist propaganda, pedophilia, apologists talking points, and to engage in vicious anti-Semitism because that's what's required of you. It's crazy. No, not done, not done, not done. A pro-Hamas activist march on NYPD HQ after police dismantled NYU's pro-Hamas camp. Well, after they dismantled the camp, they did. These people thought that they would go and they would protest in front of police headquarters. So, in other words, of the fictional detective Alonzo Harris, Do you want to go to jail or do you want to go home? That's pretty much the choice that the NYPD gave the hordes of pro-Hamas supporters who gathered on campus of New York University. Like their brethren here at Columbia University, they established a terror camp, but they put this terror camp out in front of NYPD apparently. The New York University students are jumping on the anti-Israel tent bandwagon. This is what is this? This is more Occupy. Remember Occupy Wall Street? Because it's the same people. It's the same people. It's the same tactics. When are we going to get it? The downtown Manhattan University has become the latest pricey college to see students set up in encampments on campus as they protest Israel and the war on the Gaza Strip. The protesters made camp across NYU's Stern School of Business in Manhattan on Monday as they called on the school to divest from the Jewish state and push for an end to its campaign across the Palestinian enclave. The students were waving Palestinian flags on the streets and sidewalks, and others hanging up signs to honor the martyrs of Palestine. Unlike Columbia, NYU let the police do their job and restore order. Police action led to a pro-Hamas activist marching on One Police Plaza, where they're chanting "Flood 1PP." That's terrorist talk for attack. I think these people think that they're in Minnesota. You remember during the George Floyd riots, what happened? That the police in Minneapolis or Kenosha just walked out, just let the terrorists do whatever they wanted to do, attacking the officers, attacking the places. But again, this is what these people do. This is who these people are. And that's what we're seeing. Now, what's the governor say? What's the senator in New York say? The pro-Hamas protests at Columbia University have gotten wildly out of control. We know that. Not only are Jewish students being subjected to rampant anti-Semitism, but when a Jewish professor being denied access to campus and Jewish students being urged to go home and take classes online for their safety. It's surely like the victims are the ones being blamed here. President Joe Biden and his administration have been weak, as expected, on this matter, from delayed statements to Biden's own very fine people on both sides moment. Okay. Yes, you remember? Remember when Trump made that statement about Charlottesville? People lost their mind. Or they were led to, they were taught to, they were told to lose their mind. New York's top Democrats, including Governor Kathy Hochul and Senator Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, the latter who's Jewish, haven't been much better. Becky Noble, our sister at Red State, covered a video that Hochul shared from her X account. Also, were pictures she took at the university for the perfect photo op. It took the time to meet with law enforcement. I took the time to meet with law enforcement in NYPD, the deputy mayor, the president of the college, and to talk about security here. Because my number one job is to keep the people of this state safe. No, it isn't. And right now, there are many students not feeling safe on campus, Hochul shared. She also spoke about strategies to protect public safety and security, enforce state human rights laws. There shouldn't be any state human rights laws. That's ridiculous. And also protect people's rights to peacefully assemble and have freedom of speech. When speaking about students she met with, she shared how students are scared. They're afraid to walk on campus, adding, they don't deserve that. Well, part of new people are they soft as hell and they're scared all the time. So they deserve an environment that is free from discrimination, That's never going to happen as required by the state human rights laws. Just because there's a law doesn't mean something's going to happen. Also shared a message from the pro-Hamas agitators on campus as she looked to appeal to them, specifically their humanity. So I leave here today. I also have a message for everybody. I was once a student protester. I protested institutions. I protested government. I protested against apartheid. But I've never seen a level of protest that is so person to person. It's so visceral. I'm calling on everyone. People need to find their humanity, have the conversations, talk to each other. Blah, 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 blah. Schumer. College campuses must be places of learning and discussion. Every American has the right to protest, but when protests shift to anti-Semitism, verbal abuse, intimidation, or glorification of October 7th, violence against Jewish people that crosses the line, campuses must remain safe for all students. Blah, blah, freaking blah. We need to call out these things as what they are. This is some Nazi BS. And being funded and pushed by the same people who funded Occupy Wall Street, the George Floyd riots, you go on, the Summer of Love, right? Same people. The Soroses and the like. Let's not get it wrong. Let's not get it twisted. Let's not lose focus. Let's not think this is different. Let's not think this is different, because it's not different. It's the same. And until the rank and file American starts to understand who their enemy is, and frankly, it's not Donald Trump, it's not the GOP. Hell, it's not even Democrats. Until Americans start realizing who the real enemy is, we are in big trouble. We'll be right back. If you are a true blue conservative, small businesses are near and dear to your heart. They are the lifeblood of our life and economy. I believe this, and that's why my florist is not a website or phone number. My florist is Blooming Days Flower Shop, Tampa's premier flower shop. At 11618 North Florida Avenue here in Tampa, Florida, and at 6835 State Road 54 in Newport Richey. Call Christine at 813-933-1942 and at 727-232-6900. She can also be reached on the web at www.bloomingdays.com.
في أكبر الكتب.
All right. Welcome back. I knew this would happen, where public spaces in Democrat-run hands is being overrun by the homeless population. Now, they call it different. They call it unhoused. They call it, they have loads of names for these things, but it's people who are homeless. Now, we know that a lot of their policies have caused this homelessness and continues to draw, and their policies draw homeless people to their cities. Now, in Atlanta, at Hartford Airport, which is the busiest airport in the world. Crazy that it's the busiest airport in the world. Now, it has a lot to do with Delta being out of Atlanta and being its major hub. And Delta flies all over the planet. So, yeah, I guess it's not weird when you know a little bit about it to know why Atlanta is the busiest airport in the world. Yes, busier than New York, LaGuardia, or JFK, busier than Gatwick or Heathrow in London. It's Atlanta. That's why flying in and out of there. If you don't have to leave the plane, do not leave the plane. Now the airport now has a homeless problem because it's hot in Atlanta, and the airport is air conditioned. And what's happening is a lot of people who don't have any place else to be are choosing this to spend the evening hours in an air conditioned place that is relatively safe. Get it? I probably, you know what? I ain't gonna lie. I probably would too. Probably find some place that ain't the streets. We all know the stories about shelters. Shelters are hard to get into a lot of times and can be dangerous. But if you can find some quiet corner of the airport where you just gather your belongings and hunker down for a few hours to get some sleep, yeah, that seems like a viable option. Not anymore. Not anymore. People who run the airport, the Atlanta Police Department, the mayor of Atlanta, and their city government has decided that homeless people hanging out in the airport. As a matter of fact, anybody who doesn't have business in the airport, if you're not if you're not meeting people or you're not flying out, you can't be in the airport. Now, it bothers me from another standpoint. I have gained a recent fascination with aviation, and sometimes I just like to go to the airport to do what? Watch planes land and take off, spot planes. But I guess not in Atlanta. I can't. What's interesting is that in Tampa, in TIA is not nearly as busy. Not even on the same planet as Atlanta. But there's a program now. It has more to do with parking than anything else. That you can visit some of the restaurants that are on the air sides, because in Tampa they have the main concourse and there's restaurants there. But some of the other restaurants, some of the specialty restaurants, and some of the local restaurants are actually on the air side, which if you don't have a boarding pass, you can't get to. They have a program now that if you want to, you can sign up to visit and enjoy some of those restaurants that are on the air side, where the planes actually come in and take off. So it's Florida. It's kind of the opposite. Yeah, come on in and enjoy the airport that you paid for with your tax dollars. Stay the hell out. Give us your money and stay the hell out of here. Hmm, interesting. In any case, we got to get out of here and make room for somebody else. So until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Bye bye now.
في أكبر